day and greetings from Cape Town, South Africa. My name is Tess Proos. I am the founder of Crystal Events Africa, a DMC based in Cape Town, but we work in many African countries, which we love. I am the president of Sight Africa, which is the Society for Incentive Travel Excellence, as well as chair of the South African Events Council. So many people say that love makes the world go round. Well, perhaps that may be true, but I'm going to argue that trust is in fact what makes the world go round. Trust is the glue that keeps relationships together. This applies to many forms of relationships, any form of relationship, in fact, from parent to child, teacher to student, boss to employee, and indeed, nations to governments. What happens when trust is broken? Fear and disappointment is what's left behind. Mending trust is probably one of the most difficult things to do. The advent of COVID-19 has resulted in a situation where we are all stuck with global disappointment and broken trust. What do? There is so much information out there, perhaps too much. Social media has literally taken over our lives. How do we distinguish between what is true and what is false? Whom or what do we believe? Fake news is nothing new to us. So we have to be super vigilant to not assume everything we read on our social media accounts. So take care before you share. Check the reliability of your sources. If you're not sure, don't share. We have all seen the mayhem that fake news can cause. I recently attended the Sight Young Leaders Conference. It was fascinating to hear our future leaders take on social media. Someone stated that Facebook was probably the least trusted out there. Others mentioned LinkedIn is probably the most trusted, being dedicated to professional people. Twitter was not exactly top of the list either. I would love to hear comments from the audience. What is your take on social media to be trusted or not trusted, and why? There were many collaborations at various levels prior to COVID-19, but how many of those were based on trust rather than simply caring about what's in it for me? How many of these collaborations have collapsed due to a lack of trust? That said, it's been encouraging to see how many people, organizations, and associations have pulled together in recent times to figure out a way to beat this crisis. Leadership has popped up from unexpected sources. There are many stories of courage and resilience out there, and I would love to hear them. We can all learn something from each other. Please feel free to share, whether it's your own story or someone else's. I believe they need to be heard, as it will provide courage and hope to many people out there who are still feeling broken due to the circumstances that are way beyond their control. Truth is, it's going to get worse and more people will need moral support. In fact, you may be in that situation yourself, having been furloughed or even laid off. Perhaps you've had to close your business. The stories are endless. Either way, it's not easy to pull yourself through this. We need each other, a shoulder to lean on, an ear to listen. In fact, I have a challenge for you. Why don't you reach out to someone you know that's in the same boat? Just start a conversation. Do it once a week. Invite someone else into your circle. You will be amazed how empowering it is to actually take on a supportive role, even if you are at the receiving end of this mess. As they say, never waste a good crisis. You might even surprise yourself. It is through small initiatives like this that leaders have risen from nowhere, and these are the people that will help guide our industry through all of it. Share your stories. Someone will take something positive away from your experience. On a different note, down here in South Africa, we've been hit the hardest on the continent with COVID-19 infections. Our government dealt with it swiftly and decisively, calling for level 5 complete lockdowns by the end of March. Effectively, this killed tourism and hospitality overnight, as it did in the rest of the world. But we were all in denial, of course. No one believed it would last longer than the 3 weeks of lockdown that were announced. Well, 2 weeks later, we were devastated when the extension of our lockdown at level 5 was announced for another month. Now what? At that time, our government did not have a clear understanding of exactly what this meant economically, not just for our sector, but its entire supply chain. I am sure many of you will have heard about the iceberg effect coined by the Joint Meetings Industry Council. It's very hard to quantify what the deep economical impact is of these lockdowns. We were all practically on autopilot during April. A few heads of local industry associations started talking, and we came to the conclusion we need to work together. This soon led to a few more phone calls, and a week later we had the first virtual meeting as the South African Events Council, representing 13 local associations from the incentive travel to meetings, audiovisual exhibitions, and more. Working closely with the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, our objective was to lobby for government to, amongst other things, understand the economic scope of our industry and the negative impact it was about to create, to understand the overnight poverty it would create for many, many people who sat with zero income from one day to the next. Here we're talking about porters, service staff, cleaners, cooks, casuals in the audiovisual industry, tour guides, and many more. This is not even considering our supply chain staff. What about all the seasonal workers on the farms and in the factories? Let's take the simple egg for an example. Let's say one hotel uses 500 eggs a day. So overnight, every hotel, restaurant, coffee shop, fast food outlet, and country lodges close. How many eggs are the farmers not selling the next day? And the next, and the next. Just a simple example to give you an idea. Let's talk about health and safety protocols as a matter of trust. Our industry is highly regulated and we are pretty good at self-regulating. Hygiene protocols are the second nature for service and kitchen staff. COVID-19 simply created another layer that we had to observe and train for. It was very quick for us as an industry to adapt, from hotels to venues, even airlines and airports, which we don't really have control over, but the discipline is there. Yet it was super hard to convince government that we know what we are doing. Global COVID-19 protocols are a key factor that will make or break trust. The SA Events Council, in conjunction with the Event Safety Alliance, immediately started working on a very comprehensive draft of protocols that was submitted to our government in June. Subsequently, we hosted 2 proof of concept events to prove to both the industry and government that we are on top of our game, to show that we are industry professionals and that our methods and operations can be trusted. The first event was held on the 22nd of July, hybrid form across 5 cities, and was highly successful. So now we know the industry is comfortable and confident with what we do. But where are the bookings? Where are the new inquiries? They're not coming. So we realize that our clients, including corporates, associations, and even government, do not have the confidence, the trust, to go back to in-person meetings. How do we fix this? To that end, we hosted another proof of concept event on the 1st of September, also in 5 cities, but different venues. And this time we made sure that we invited our clients. Again, it was a very smooth event and even resulted in some small local bookings for our local professional conference organizers. But it's not enough. In the meantime, we still had some challenges that needed resolving by the government. We were restricted to 50 delegates for meetings. For most venues, it wasn't viable to even open their doors for 50 people. So we really needed to push for increased capacity. In addition, we desperately needed confirmed dates for border reopening. It was impossible to quote, plan, get confirmations, let alone deposits, while there was so much uncertainty out there. On top of that, we were losing business to other destinations that either had reopening dates or were already operational. We had several meetings with South African Tourism and finally the Minister of Tourism and her team to explain our reasoning. Thankfully, our voices were heard and the President advised on 16 September that we may now host events up to 50% capacity or a maximum of 250 delegates indoors and up to 500 outdoors. What a lovely win that was for our industry, and that was thanks to very hard work from many people around our sector. In addition, our border openings were confirmed for the 1st of October, and we were super excited about that. The bottom line is, why am I telling you this, is that the government has developed trust in our industry. It took months to get there, And we got there. Without that trust, we would still be in a level 2, maybe 3 lockdown. But it's up to us now to make sure that that trust is not broken. The challenge, though, is that bookings are still not pouring in. Whilst the rest of Africa still have some of the lowest rates of infection, the rest of the world is facing many downward spirals. Trust is broken yet again. In Africa, we are currently working on aligning protocols between countries. It's not an easy task. It could take years to get right, but at least it's a step in the right direction. That way, our travelers can have a sense of confidence across borders. Many trips to Africa are multi-destination. Therefore, it's critical not to have conflicting protocols. It only confuses the traveler and breaks down confidence. People would rather not travel than risk being stuck in a country under quarantine for 2 weeks at their own expense. In fact, these protocols need to be aligned globally so that governments, airlines, and suppliers sing off the same page in order for travelers to trust again. As long as there is no trust, there is no business. Where do we go from here? Firstly, the alignment of protocols is key. We cannot have people unnecessarily detained or quarantined due to misunderstandings on testing requirements. We also should encourage people in your community to adhere to the regulations, even erring on the side of caution. Wear those masks, keep sanitizing, it's all for our own good. If we want our governments to trust us, we need to do our share. We all want to get back to business sooner rather than later. Share protocols across borders, be it venues, hotels, restaurants, and so on. Look for common areas and opportunities where protocols can be improved or streamlined. In fact, let's make this a global effort so that trust can return in what we do. Set up committees, find people who are up for the task within your own community, align those protocols within your community and share it externally. Snowball effect, if everyone does this, we might have global protocols aligned on a global scale in a few months. We hope. Well, that's my story. I hope I've given you something to think about. And as Jerry Springer said, look after yourself and each other. Thank you.